So these are pictures of 7 Republican senators who voted for acquittal, meaning not guilty, in the Johnson impeachment. They never served in office again, and I'll draw your attention to this guy who is from our state. His name was Lyman Trumbull, and his basis for acquittal was that, if you follow Illinois politics today, you'll appreciate the irony, that the impeachment didn't that the Tenure of Office Act, the violation didn't rise to the level of an impeachable offense, and the whole impeachment was driven by political vengeance, and that was the last of Lyman Trumbull in the Senate. So the Johnson administration, a lot of things happened. End of French hopes in Mexico. The French tried to start an empire down there. Review of the Grand Army, Seward's folly, purchasing Alaska, which turned out to be not a folly at all. The carpetbaggers, so the Northerners coming down to the South to settle them. We got a new state admitted to the Union in 1867. 2 amendments to the Constitution passed, and the Great Eastern Laid Atlantic Cable. But anyway, the radicals were infuriated, absolutely infuriated by the acquittal, but many politicians feared establishing a principle of removing the president through impeachment. It shouldn't be anything other than a last resort. So the purchase of Alaska here, we purchased it from Russia, and while Seward was initially ridiculed, again I said it was called Seward's folly, the discovery of oil and gold there made the deal well worth it. Well worth it. Alaska has paid for itself many times over. We got it for pretty cheap, comparatively. So, 1867, William Seward, serving as Andrew Johnson's Secretary of State, buys Alaska from the Russians for $7.2 million. This is the size of Alaska, relative here. Pretty big, over twice the size of Texas. And the size of Alaska is equivalent to the entire eastern seaboard, spanning north to south from Maine to Florida and west to Tennessee. So we significantly added to the size of the country. Most people jeered his act, until he was proven right. The New York Tribune writes, "Already we were burdened with territory we had no population to fill. The purchase price was small. The annual charges for administration, civil and military, would be yet greater." And continuing, the territory included in the proposed cession was not contiguous to the national domain. It lay away at an inconvenient and a dangerous distance. The treaty had been secretly prepared and signed and foisted upon the country at 1 o'clock in the morning. It was a dark deed done in the night. I wish newspapers still wrote like this. I might read them. Alaska is a sucked orange. It contained nothing of value but fur-bearing animals, and these had been hunted until they were nearly extinct, except for the Aleutian Islands and a narrow strip of land extending along the southern coast. The country would be not worth taking as a gift. Unless gold were found in the country, it was a frozen wilderness, and little did the New York World know what would be found in Alaska. So, skipped one. So oil and gold were discovered later. Alaska became a huge bargain, well in excess of the $7.2 million we paid for it. The legacy of Reconstruction, dismal failure by most measures. The South managed to replicate slavery in basically all but name. They had slavery in all but in name. Sharecropping, Ku Klux Klan, Jim Crow, all, not great by any measure. Yes, slavery was officially abolished. Yes, they were citizens, but man, was it hard going, and it still is hard going in many ways. Many Southerners regarded Reconstruction as worse than the war itself because it upended their entire social and racial system. Reconstruction achieved some very short term successes in that it reunited the Union. It created temporary political opportunities for former slaves. As we saw earlier, there were two African American senators from Mississippi. And although citizenship, equal protection of the laws, and voting rights were granted to blacks, these rights were stripped away through segregation, violence, and the Supreme Court. It was a long, hard slog for African Americans, and in many ways, we're still working towards a more perfect union. The radical Republicans' efforts to change racial attitudes and culture in the South had failed due to doggedly determined Southern resistance and the North's waning resolve to enforce the law. And the sharecropper system, the exploitative sharecropper system, endured for several generations. And sharecropping, that was a hard life, very similar to slavery. So Republicans didn't improve the South, and blacks struggled to attain rights for the next century. And it really kick-started again in the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s with MLK, Malcolm X. So this might be something you might see on the test. Explain why and how the role of the federal government changed as a result of the Civil War with respect to the following during the period 1861 to 1877. Race relations, economic development, westward expansion. I feel like the book, this talk, and some of the other stuff we've done have equipped you to answer this question. That is that. Thanks for hanging in there with me.